All right, Rams, this video is about adding integers. And the first page here is adding integers that have the same signs. That means they're all positive or all negative. So our first example here says -6 plus -5. Now think back to what we did in class with our army men. That's like saying 6 bad guys show up and then 5 more bad guys show up. There are no zero pairs and none of them kill each other, right? So they're all on the same side. So all we do, we just add them up. When the signs are the same, here are the rules right here, you just add the numbers and keep the same sign. If both numbers are positive, your answer is positive. That's like a 3 plus 2. Now what happens if they're both negative? Well, think back to like with our army men. If we have bad guys and more bad guys show up, our answer is just a whole bunch of bad guys all together, right? So the answer is negative. We just combine them all and your answer is negative. It's the same thing. And we'll model that with a number line and our integer chips, okay? So right here, with our integer chips, these are the red and yellow counters. The red ones are negatives here. So it's like saying 6 red army men and 5 more red army men. They're all on the same, so there are no zero pairs. Nothing cancels each other out. So I just add them all up. 6 plus 5 is -11. Now, we can also represent this on a number line, and that's one thing that's kind of cool, is that we start at 0, and I'm going to go 6 spaces in the negative direction, right? I'm going to go 6 spaces in the negative direction, and then I'm going to stop there, and then my second number is -5, so I'm going to go 5 more spaces in the negative direction. Now, if you wanted to count them, make sure you count the spaces in the middle, not the lines on the end, because your number would not be right. Your answer is where you end up after the second number. Now, sometimes you see a question that only has one arrow, and that also represents the addition here. All that is that you start at -6 and you go 5 more spaces. This one is not as common, but sometimes you do see it. And this would also represent -6 plus -5 equals -11. Okay? Now, we're going to practice down here. I'm going to show you how to use the integer chips without actually having the chips there. Okay? So, 4 plus 8. So when I model this, it's 4 positive chips plus 8 more positives. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So all I have right here are 12 positive integer chips. So it's positive 12. Now my number line here, I'm going to start at 0. I'm going to go over to positive 4. And then above that, I'm not going to 8. I'm going 8 spaces. Remember, both of these represent the distance that I'm traveling and the direction. It's 4 spaces in the positive direction and then 8 spaces in the positive direction. It's not going to number 8, okay? All right, -3 plus -7. 3 negatives plus 7 negatives. 5, 6, 7. So what do I have all together here? I have 10 negative integer chips. So I'm going to start at 0, and I'm going to go 3 spaces in the negative direction. And then I'm going to stop. I'm going to have a new arrow that's going to go 7 more spaces in the negative direction. Okay, where I end up at, that is my answer. So it is -10. I'm sorry, that's blurry there. Okay. I'm going to let you do the last 2. Your work is not complete until you've done these, and this is part of your picture, okay? I want you to do these 2 here. Okay? Also, I want you to think about this. If you were practicing this at home, what items could you use to represent the positive and negative integer chips? If you do not have little red and yellow army men at your house, and you do not have the little red and yellow counters that we used in class, what could you use to represent this problem? Now, you could use rocks. You could use coins like pennies and nickels. You could use beans. Anything that you have that's just two different things, two different colors or two different sizes, that all works, okay? All right. Now, we're going to switch over here to adding integers with opposite signs real quick, okay? Opposite signs mean that one number is positive and one number is negative, okay? Now, first thing we need to understand here is the word zero pair. It is when a positive and a negative integer cancel each other, okay? Oh, that's too light, sorry. When a positive and a negative cancel each other, okay? All right, so when a positive and negative cancel each other. So let's say here are my two numbers that I have. -5 plus +9. So let's think about it here with our army men. Okay, that's kind of like the integer chips. Let's say I had 5 bad guys here, 5 red bad guys, and 9 good guys. 9 of these positive guys here, okay? How do I know who wins? Oh, I threw my pen lid. Well, the one that wins, or your answer, is the one that has more, and it's by how many more? Well, which one has more? The positives here. There are more positives than negatives. Now, how many more positives are there? There will be 4 more positives than these negatives right here. So your answer would be +4. But let's model what this looks like, okay? Here are my integer chips. And I'm going to circle my 0 pairs. That positive and negative make a 0 pair. That one makes a 0 pair. That one, and that one, and that one. Now your answer is whatever you have left over after that. My answer then is +4. It's really easy, right? Okay, so what we did here, when we talked about this, we said we could ignore the signs and we just subtract the numbers. Some say we subtract the absolute values, okay? That just means without the sign. Okay, we're going to ignore them and subtract. So in this example here, I would just say 9 minus 5. There's no positives, no negative. We're just looking at 9 minus 5, okay? Now, determine, no, so you subtracted them and got a 4. So determine which number is larger or has a greater absolute value. So when I'm not looking at the signs, which one's larger? It's 9. 9 is larger. Now, your answer will have the same sign as that number. Your answer will have the same sign as that number. So if my 9 is positive, then my answer is positive. All right? Just like we did up here. We subtracted them. We said we have 9 of these positives and 5 negatives. We subtracted them. We said there are more of these positives than negatives. So we subtracted them, and by how many more? It was 4 more. And there were positives left over, okay? Now, on your number line, what does this look like? This is a little bit of a tricky thing to watch here. Your arrows go different directions when your signs are different, okay? So the rule is we start at 0, and I'm going to go the direction and distance of the first number. So this says I'm going to go 5 spaces in the negative direction, okay? Then I'm going to stop there, and I'm going to start a new arrow, and I'm going to go 9 spaces in the positive direction. I'm not going over to 9, I'm going 9 spaces. So I could count right here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 spaces. And I'm going to end up here at +4. That's kind of cool, right? Now, every now and then you also see a number line that looks like this. You don't have that first arrow. You just start at -5. So that tells me that's your starting point, and then you add 9 spaces. That's not as common, but sometimes you do see that. This top number line is what you would normally see. Okay. All right, so we're going to use our little integer chips down here and practice a couple. Okay, 7 plus negative 4. So 7 positives and 4 negatives. 1, 2, 3, 4. You could just draw them like I do and put your plus or negative in the middle. We circle our 0 pairs, and whatever's left over is the answer. What do I have here? A 3. It's a positive 3 because it's 3 positive integers. Now my number line here says I would start at 0. I'm going to go 7 spaces in the positive direction. First number is a positive 7. And then I'm going to stop there and I'm going to go 4 spaces in the negative direction. So 1, 2, 3, 4 spaces. And if you need to count them, you can. 2, 3, 4. And where do I end up at? Positive 3. Okay, I'm going to let you do this last one here. Negative 2 plus 8. So you're going to do it. Make sure you show me your integer chips and your number line. Okay, a couple of our guiding questions here. How could you describe 0 pairs in your own words? You could say good guy and bad guy, right? That's our class term. They both shoot at the same time, right? Or you can say the positive and negative. Now, what are your differences between your two number lines here? What are your differences between your two number lines? Right, and that's talking about this right here. Well, the first one has an actual arrow for your first number that you're adding. The second one doesn't have that arrow, but it starts at that first number, okay? So you write that down here. And your last one here before your summary says, what happens when you add two numbers that are opposites? So 8 and negative 8. So it's like saying 8 positive integers. 6, 7, 8, and then 8 negative integers. What's going to happen here? Well, they're all going to cancel each other out because it's going to be a whole bunch of 0 pairs. So what is my answer when I add 8 plus negative 8? 0. Okay, last thing you're going to do is tell me your summary. Okay, and then we're going to use all this information in class.